Well, hello and welcome to our listeners, wherever you're dialing in from. For those of you that are dialing in for the first time, my name is Michael Filippo and I'm the CEO of Sandstone Technology, a global financial technology company committed to building first-class digital banking systems. Now, in partnership with Financial Executive Women, or FEW, a member-based business dedicated to supporting women's careers and development, we're proud to bring you the Digital First of Banking Transformation series, where we speak with all the thought leaders in banking, financial services and technology. Normally, I'm joined by my exceptional co-host, Alex Tullio, who's the CEO of FEW, but on this occasion, she's unable to be with us. So in her absence, I'm thrilled to say that Sandstone's own, very impressive, Global Head of Marketing and Communications, Jen Harris, will be joining me. Welcome to the program, Jen. It's great to be co-hosting with you today. And needless to say that we have another very special guest.
Thank you, Mick. It is a pleasure stepping in for Alex and joining you in hosting today's episode of Digital First, a banking transformation series. I think Alex will be proud knowing that someone is stepping into her shoes who also uses her hands as much as she does when she's speaking. And with that, you've probably sensed that through my hand movements, how excited I am to introduce today's special guest, someone who is no stranger to the series, having already appeared towards the end of last year, and a true financial technology leader. He has a decorated background in both the European and Australian financial markets. He is an information technology and innovation executive who specialises in managing complex global technology projects and bringing digital innovation and creativity to large organisations. He has led many global enterprise IT and innovation initiatives across major banking and financial service organisations, including major systems development and deployment, platform and app design, mobility projects, their development and commercialisation. Previously, the head of technology and global head of remote channels and new digital business at BBVA, where he was responsible for developing the IT strategy for online channels and online customer strategy. During his time at BBVA, he managed the development and delivery of the BBVA Compass and BBVA Spain mobile banking apps. Prior to this, he was the Global Mobility Director at Santander and Chief Innovation and Technology Officer at Bankinter. Having joined Macquarie Bank in November 2014, he was responsible for leading the digital transformation and engineering team. He has since overseen the development and delivery of Macquarie's new digital banking offering, which launched in 2016. Starting his career with computers at the ripe age of 6, becoming a hacker by the age of 9, and being brought into hacker meetings by his own father shortly after, without further ado, I would like to introduce you all to Luis Uguina, Chief Digital Officer at Macquarie Banking and Financial Services Group. Welcome, Luis.
Thank you so much. It's impressive how you have condensed all my life in a couple of minutes. Thank you so much.
Well, I feel like I actually need a drink now after speaking for such a long time. So it's a very, very decorated career, and we're very, very happy to have you on board once again.
Thank you so much. I'm super proud to be here.
And Luis, like listening to your background, incredible experience across multiple markets, the European markets, the Northern Hemisphere, as well as now the Southern Hemisphere in Australia. We were talking offline before, and maybe just to jump straight in, we're behind on trend in Australia, and I think it's a little bit like how we're behind in financial services technology and how banking works. So we often look across the border, across the ocean, and see what's best in class. What are some of the trends when you look across the border, having come from, of course, the heart of Europe? What do you see that you think we might be able to start to adopt here in the Australian market to benefit our customers with some innovative technology or systems that are going to help us here?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So don't think that we are, far ahead from the or far behind from any other bank in the world. So Australia, over the last, I will say 3-4 years, we have leapfrogged many of our competitors in terms of worldwide, in terms of how we are doing business. Obviously, a big push from the government in terms of MPP, real-time payments, and many of the rules that we have in the banking industry. You don't have many countries in the world where you are able to make real-time payments across the industry. Obviously, it's usually one business day, a couple of business days, right? So, and in terms of technology, I think that, well, you know better than I, is pervasive in terms of what's happening in the world. So today is really difficult to be working with technology that is exclusive to one single country. So something that is interesting though is, I think that the area where as an industry we can improve is in our real-time system. So many banks in Australia still don't have real-time operations. And then you always rely on, I need to wait 24 hours even to move money between my own accounts, right? Or from my account to my credit card, etc. So I think that this is one area where we need to improve as a industry in Australia. And in terms of what's coming, so to be honest, in terms of technology, I don't think that we will have massive surprise. There is a couple of countries in Europe where they are extremely aggressive in improving the capacity of the customer to be moving across the banking industry. So as you know, you all use half a bank, and you use one or more banks, and you know how difficult it is to move from one bank to another, right? You need to move all your direct debits, you need to move your bills, etc. So it's usually it's a pain just to be able to move from A to B, right? That somehow is like many years ago when you were moving from telco A to telco B is, I need to tell all my friends my new phone, etc. And then this phone porting appear, right? And then you just move here in Australia in real time from company A to company B, and nothing happens, right? So a couple of countries in Europe are now testing this account portability. So what if I'm working in bank A, I move into bank B, and all the things are moved, and I still maintain my same account and everything in the new bank. So from a pain point of view, no pains. You are just moving the bank. You are working with a different institution, and your account is exactly the same. So big change in terms of how the industry works. Incredible customer experience for the customer. I think that this is going to be one of the areas where we still have room for improvement in this world. But don't think that we are not as good as many other banks in the world. Yeah, we need to be very proud of the banking industry that we have in Australia.
One thing on that, with that account portability, Lewis, do you think the open banking has actually pushed that particular angle?
That's a very good question. So look, open banking for the first time is opening the data into a secure way. Right. So obviously we had in the past some companies that were able to screen scrap the information, and then you give your username and password, and someone is collecting the information on your behalf. As a customer, I'm not very safe with this approach. I don't want to give my credentials to someone else. It's like giving the keys of my house to someone else that I don't know who they are. Right. Open banking is somehow creating a framework that is the same for all the banking industry, and it's putting the customer at the center of the decision process, right? So at any moment, I can allow my bank to be sharing the information with a third party, and in real time, at any moment, I can revoke the access to my information. So we are putting all the control in the hands of the customer. Really good. So I don't think, while it's going to be obviously is an evolution in the way we are sharing the data and the way we use the data. I don't think that we don't yet have many capabilities in the market that use these open banking capabilities. So I think that probably in a couple of years we will see many companies that are going to start creating really innovative products. But still, if we are not able to make pure account portability, it's still a pain, right? So even if I'm moving from bank A to B and I'm able to share my data, I'm still need to change everything in my life, because today we have only open banking, What I think is once we have open banking, open utilities, open healthcare, open leisure, all those things is going to be much easier, because I will be able through APIs to be, I changed my bank, but I changed my healthcare, I change all my utilities, I change everything, and things will happen hopefully in a seamless way.
Great answer, and I might drill into this one a little bit more. I've got two questions. First one is, it's interesting because in some ways, as you touched on, there's some capability that's been in the market for some time that arguably people need to breach the Epayments code in order to be able to provide their personal credentials in order to have a third party to access. But because of the mass adoption, how much that may have actually influenced the landscape and the legislation to be able to be moved forward, because it's this what comes first, the chicken and the egg. I think the mass adoption came, and the government saying, okay, well, actually, this is what consumers want. We need to move with it accordingly. So to some extent, I think they've been pioneers and created a great value to customers, albeit there's some compliance and risk that's attached to that. So perhaps I think that was probably comment one. The next piece is I think you're right. On this portability piece, Lewis, that's the main pain. When you've ever had fraud on your credit card, and then they cancel your card, and then you've got to go and notify all your creditors and debtors out there. It is a significant pain. How about now, when maybe moving towards artificial intelligence and machine learning, and for this in order to have portability, how good would it be to be in a situation where there's when you are changing organisations or banks that you're banking with, that there's some capability that can do all that heavy lifting for you automatically, and you alluded to APIs and the effective gathering or data democratization, using that effectively. How do you see that playing out and what would need to happen before we get to that point where there's that level of automation from a customer experience perspective?
Yeah, that's a couple of really interesting questions. So the first one is, you are right. So usually what happens is society moves faster than regulation. It happens in every single industry, right? So we are able to do in our normal lives many things that when you are moving into the I will say industry space, especially in highly regulated industries, the legislation and regulation is going a little bit behind, right? So it is the way that the world works. Also happens, to you as a normal person, right? So probably not now, but remember, just probably 5 to 10 years ago, you are running a company, right? You're the CEO of the company. So all yourself and all your employees, probably they were able to access unlimited capacity in terms of email and Drive, whatever, with Google, Microsoft, whatever. And then you come to the office and says, I have 150 megabytes of space on my email, and I cannot do this, I cannot do that, I cannot do from my mobile. So what I mean is society and the way these all those massive digital companies are pushing the boundaries in the way we behave and the way we work are usually far ahead of what we can do as companies. So no doubt that what we have today in the open banking regime, in what we are able to do, is heavily influenced by what the people was doing in a not so secure way, right? In the same way that the capability that we have as companies to be using AI, ML, even the cloud, etc., is heavily influenced by all the push that we have in the society of moving things into the cloud and start using systems. You no longer have your computer under the desk. You are using someone's computer that is providing the capability. In the second question, you are absolutely right. So one of the big challenges that we have today in the banking industry is the massive level of friction that we have with many processes, right? And this is because, well, it's a complex environment, and also somehow, I will say that we haven't done an amazing job in the industry for the last probably 50 years in trying to be on the customer's shoes, right? So, and what I mean is, as an industry, and probably happens in all the big industries, what we have been really good is in teaching the customer how to speak banking language. And we have educate the people on what is a BSB. That is the most crazy thing ever, right? So you need to 6 digits plus then 10 numbers, and then so it makes no sense. If you think how the world works, somehow it makes no sense that you are doing things in the way that you are doing. So what I mean is, I don't know if the new generations that are coming, they will be keen to be doing, to be learning what we have been keen to learn in the past, right? And that's why many of the new companies using, incredible technologies are able to provide a much better customer experience, or I will say is a customer experience that is closer to the new generation expectations, right? And then you no longer need to be sharing a lot of different information that is complicated to remember or to memorize, right? So they just share, send me the money to my mobile, send me the money to my email, send me the money to my TikTok alias. And this is what happened, right? And then the rest of the industry is still dealing with many numbers and 24 hours delays to send the money from one side to another, right? So AI, ML, obviously will play a massive role in everything that is happening. So I think that not in the way of I will have something that is making, on my behalf, changing Netflix and Hulu, right? I think that is more in the sense of we will reach into a point where we will be using completely different ways of interchanging the information across the industry. So believe or not, my vision is in 5 to 10 years time, probably 5 to 7 years time, you will be able to send money from your TikTok account to a friend in Facebook, or from your personal or professional email to some alias in Facebook or Apple or whatever, right? And it's because at the end, what I think is we will have a model where we will have like an aggregation of digital identities that all of them will belong to you. And then at the end is sending money to your mobile, to your TikTok ID, to your Facebook alias, or to your home address is going to be basically a different identity that belongs to you. And at that point, we should be able to send information from one point to another. That's the vision that I have. Obviously, ML AI will play an important role, but in things that you don't even think are right now. So we'll play a massive role in fraud detection. We'll play a massive role on trying to understand if you are still the person that is behind that digital identity, and many other areas, rather than having like a personal assistant that is going to be doing things on your behalf.
With Lewis, I just want to go back to something that you just spoke about before in terms of you're not moving around. You need to be more like this, Lewis, and use your hands.
Hello. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So just going back to something that you were saying before, in terms of the language that was used was very much banking driven. So we were very much a banking centric industry, and we've now shifted over to that sort of more customer centric. Now, do you think, because of the pandemic that we've all gone through, do you actually think that has helped expedite that change, expedite that for the last sort of 12 months or so, becoming more customer centric?
Probably yes. Probably the answer is yes. I think that from a business point of view, we have suffered a massive revolution in not in the way we do business, because at the end the banking business has been the same and probably will be the same for a long time. But I think that a couple of things have changed, right? One is obviously people was working from home and was spending a massive amount of time at home. What that means is when you are at home, you are not going to visit in any physical place. You are going to be doing everything online, or as many things as possible. So we have seen, like the rest of the industry, a massive uplift in the number of people that is keen to use digital access and digital systems. So this is the first one. The second one is, it's putting a lot of stress in those areas where you are not, I will say, you are not very well optimized, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example, and it's an industry-wide problem. So we are prepared for managing a volume of calls that we understand, is going to be whatever, right? And we have been for many years learning how are those patterns, and we know that when people receive the payroll, the pay slip in the account, they usually behave in one particular way, and then depending on how is the weather, etc., we have more or less volumes of calls. No one was prepared for a planetary lockdown in one day, right? Because everything happened in 1 week. Believe it or not, everything happened in 1 week. And suddenly, you are moving into 10, 20, 30, 100 times the volume that you should expect, right? So at that point, COVID-19, what has surfaced all the big things, or the issues, or the lack of optimization that we had in the company, every single company in the world. Suddenly, when everything is coming into the same channel at the same time, is wow, how do I handle that? And it's not only from I need to be able to support 1 million customers online, where usually I had 500,000. It's not only that, right? So we have the cloud and we have capability, and this is something that is can be managed properly. It's about people, right? So at the end, if you, instead of 3,000 calls per minute, you have 30,000, there is no way you cannot clone the people in real time and says, oh, now are going to, right? And then at that point is where the companies with a much better technology and a probably forward-thinking vision, they have been able to absorb much better the capacity, right? So I have colleagues where the big drama was, how do we put more people in the existing contact center, and how do we move people in a safe way from their houses into the contact center? And other colleagues is, the problem is completely different, is how I'm going to make sure that every single person from home is able to access in a secure way the backend or the backend systems from the contact center, etc. Right? So depending on the kind of vision that you had before and the capabilities that you had from an enterprise point of view, you were able to suffer this pandemic in a different way. However, I think that has changed forever the way we do business, and not only with our customers, is also across companies. And many businesses are going to be really disrupted by this pandemic. So all those businesses where 100% of the business is organizing physical events. So Salesforce, one of the companies that once per year was monopolizing every single hotel and event place in San Francisco, they said, we are moving into full digital, full virtual, right? No more physical places. And so this is a massive disruption, not only in the events organization space, also in the hotels industry, right? So when in September, October, every single year was almost impossible to find any hotel room in 100 kilometers around San Francisco. Now it's not a problem anymore. So the way we now understand the way we do business from a personal and professional point of view is crazy. And has changed not only the technology, has changed also the way we behave. So something like the Zoom fatigue, it's something that is new, right? So why? Because I have a quite interesting reflection that I'm writing on a blog post. Is I think that, believe it or not, the speed of the company is usually, or has been usually, limited by the number of physical rooms that you had in the company, right? I'm going to give you my vision. My vision is, if you and I need to have a meeting, pre-COVID-19 was, I need to have a meeting, right? So let's see how we can check for 1 hour something. I'm going to create the presentation, the PowerPoint, and the first thing that we need, we obviously did need a meeting room, right? So meeting room is something that you don't have unlimited ones. So you need to wait probably a couple of days. So you have delay the meeting 2 days, not because we cannot meet right now, it's because we need a physical room just to be meeting, right? So no one was understanding 1 year ago, I'm going to have the meeting with you through Zoom if I am in the same floor, right? Being in the same floor means we need to meet in a physical place. This is no longer the situation. So I have never ever be working or have more meeting rooms or more meetings than nowadays. I can have 25 meetings on a day, back to back, non-stop, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., right? Because now technology allows to do that. Is better? I don't know, but has changed the way we work. And nowadays, no one will begin to say, oh, I cannot meet with you because we don't have a meeting room. Is we can do a Zoom, we can do a WebEx, we can do whatever we use, right? Microsoft Teams. Many small things that have changed forever, in my opinion, the way we work, or at least has changed for our generation the way we work. I don't know if the new generation where they haven't had both models will have a different one, but our generation, I think that has changed almost forever.
Yeah.
So many insights there, Lewis. I actually want to go back to your vision of the future of, because you touched on payments ultimately, and this vertical of payments and how it's evolved quite markedly. And what you're saying is that you see that there'll be the ability for people to very seamlessly and without friction be able to pay each other, from Facebook to Instagram to Twitter, whatever the platforms might be. And then I just want to extrapolate that a little bit further and perhaps ask a question, because that hypothesis or that vision isn't that very similar to what Facebook actually has, with what they were proposing with their Libra token. I don't know how far advanced they are now, but if I understand correctly, ultimately what they were trying to do, and maybe they've made advanced ground on it as well, given their sheer quantum of customers, is that to have a token that's pegged to the primary currencies, USDs, Canadian Ds, etc., and then be able to have that ability that has utility across pretty much all jurisdictions. So on that's really on payments. Maybe some comments and insight in terms of how actually payments has evolved and continues to evolve, because the big traditional companies, your Visas, your Mastercards, your American Expresses, they've been under pressure, but we've seen them evolve their own offerings to be able to keep pace with some of these trends. How do you see that playing out and coming to bear?
Yeah, absolutely agree. Payments is probably one of the areas where we will see the most incredible transformation in the way we do things in the next few years. I'm not speaking about a decade or 20 years. It's probably in the next 3 to 5 years we will see massive improvements or massive revolutions in the way we do business. So look, payments is something that is very, very close to currency, right? There is a friction that has been always in the domestic payments space, and when you are moving into the international payments, the friction is exponentially bigger, right? Just think on, I'm going to buy something outside Australia, and the first thing is, what is the exchange rate, right? So should I pay with this card or with this other card, or should I do something else? Because obviously, depending on the method that I finally use is going to be more or less expensive. So the cognitive load that is on the customer every time that I'm going to buy something outside Australia is massive, right? Big improvements in something like Libra. So I don't know how the thing is going. So they have a massive boost of headlines and news a couple of years ago. Nothing else since then. I know that they have been fighting many different governments as well, because obviously everyone wants to understand, if you are going to issue a new currency, what that means. But so I still think that the industry, so you have some banks already that they give you those cards that whatever currency you use is going to be the best possible price. So what I mean is we are trying to adapt to that situation. Also, I was reading a couple of days ago, the Federal Reserve in the United States is thinking on issuing a virtual currency, right? That is going to be backed by the government. So it's like you can have the green bills, or you can have the equivalent in virtual money. So I think that this is not only going to happen in the banking industry or the payments industry. I think that the governments are going to have a massive push in this area, because at the end, many of the areas that you have today that are led by companies or banks or whatever, they have this ceiling that says, oh, the government, the regulation, and then obviously we need to live that level of of a regulation in order just to make sure that we can deliver other things. Payments. You said the card schemas, massive pressure on them as well, right? So when you have companies today that they can move money from Australia to Europe in real time with a really low fees, is putting a lot of pressure on many of the companies. And usually one of the biggest challenges that the industry has had in the past with the three big card schemas is it was like an oligopoly, right? So it's like you have three, they are doing exactly the same, little differentiation between all of them, more than the form factor of the plastic or something like that. I think that has changed, and now there is a real battle between the different card issues on I provide this capability, I'm able to do that, and they are obviously reselling to the banking industry. So massive improvement in the payments space. I am expecting that we will see big functionalities in the next 2-3 years. We will see a more, I will say, is seamless operation among everything that is happening. Everything will happen in real time, and when I mean in real time is I lost my card, you said, and they will issue a new one, something that we can do now, but at the same time, every single thing that is using that card, Netflix or PayPal, Amazon, your subscriptions are going to change in real time. I think that they are working to make that thing a reality.
Well, I have to say, Lewis, I think I have about 6 questions I want to ask you right now about what you've just said, but I'm going to stick with payments just for the moment. Before you were mentioning around that disruptive element, and that we are seeing a lot of traditional areas become highly competitive, and one of them is the buy now pay later space. Now, I mean, I grew up with remember the lay-by system, and so that was taken from you pay then you get rewarded. Now we're being rewarded and then you pay, and with this the sheer success of the likes of the Klarnas and the Afterpays, we're now seeing traditional players in the space start to move across into this one. What do you see is going to play out in that area?
Well, look, that's a tricky question, right? And that's a tricky question because impacts one of the pillars of the banking industry, that is know your customer and know who is able or who is prepared from a financial and personal point of view to be able to repay some money that you lend. Because at the end, buy now, pay later is like a micro lend where you are small amounts of money to someone that, if we are doing sensible business, we should know who is behind, right? So it's a little bit it's a little bit gray area. Obviously, massive amount of business involved in that, and one of the reasons is because as a society, right? So the people are moving into I want this and I want this now. It's happening in all the different areas of the society. So in the same way that I have kids, look, when I was young, in the morning I said, Mom, I'm going with my friends. See you later, right? And see you later could be 10 hours later. And my mom was not able to know where I was, what I was doing, and was not expecting to be able to contact me because I said, I'll see you later, right? Imagine that your kids are now leaving the home with their mobile phone, obviously. You call them 3 times and they are not answering. It's the biggest drama ever, right? It's, oh, what happened? Nothing, right? Maybe they have the phone on mute. So nothing happened, right? But we have created this society with everything needs to happen at the speed of now. And if it's not happening at the speed of now, something wrong happened, right? So somehow this society, approach where I want this, and even if I don't have the capacity, I want that now, has created those kind of products, right? So the product, there is little innovation in the product by itself. So banks and financial institutions, we have been doing, being able to create, installments in the payment in the cards for a long time. Those payday loans and some other companies doing a little bit of crazy things with small loans. They have been here for a long time. The big difference is this is happening now in real time and with little information of who is getting the money, right? In terms of the capability to pay back. So that's the big, right? In my opinion, it's a personal opinion. So I'm not speaking on the name of my employer. In my personal opinion is too much innovation in my own is my opinion, is too much innovation, and somehow it's at a micro level, the same level of innovation that we have in the GFC when we are going to package home loans AAA but not so AAA in one single financial product that is very difficult to understand. So especially when you see today what are the typical and average users of buy now, pay later, they are usually young people, right? So that are the more vulnerable segment of the population. Because look, I see my daughter is 19, my son is 16. They should be able to have a buy now, pay later, purchase. I don't think if they are prepared, from a full understanding point of view, what they are doing, right? And what means that you are going to buy something for X and you are going to repay for X plus something. I think that is a product that is a direct translation of how the society works. I think that is too much innovation in that space, in my opinion. But so it's just one of those things that are happening, and as an industry, we need to have an answer, right? My only request to all the companies that are doing this is, make sure that you are doing the right business, right? So because at the end you have someone, is a human being that I don't know if all the times they know what they are doing when they are purchasing something now. They don't have the capacity of purchasing now, but this impulse of I want the things now are leading into I'm going to be paying in 4 months or whatever.
Fascinating area, and I think wonderful business. What a business though. Afterpay, less than 10 years of age. Founded back in 2014, I think, if I remember well. And then if you have a look at the Australian banks after the first 4, it's the combined market cap of the next from 5 to 10. It's over 30 billion. So it's incredible. It's about payment and innovation, but it is that juncture of obviously, is it the right thing in the end for the mass consumer who may not have enough information to understand what they're buying into, and what behaviour does it drive? Look, I'm neither way. I think it's incredible in terms of what they've been able to produce, and I think this question of why the banks are taking a step in there, is it to potentially stymie them out of the market and make it difficult, because they're not generally making profits, these business. They're obviously living off trading on multiples of revenue at this stage. So fascinating area. But look, we've got, I reckon, over to you, Jen, one last question, because we have raced through here, Lewis, and you've given us so many insights on the technology vertical. Jen, a final question from you before we're gonna have to say thanks to our viewers.
Okay, well, it's like, which one do we end on? I might actually just quickly loop back to when you're talking about real-time, so real-time systems, and, having that seamless experience from both the customer's perspective as well as the bank's perspective. Where do you see the biggest improvements that need to be made as an industry around that ideal of that real-time information, data, experience model? Where do you think is going to be the biggest impact there?
So my opinion is in something that we discussed before, AI, ML, this real-time systems is going to be able to give you a much better understanding and overview of how to maximize the value of your money, right? So let's say that you want to buy a house. Buying a house, it's not only the decision of I need to buy the physical place, is how is this going to impact on my life for the next 20, 30 years, right? Shouldn't be amazing that the bank is able to tell you, look, I'm going to give you something called like a what if simulator. What if I buy a car? What if I buy an Xbox or a PlayStation? What if I buy a house? So what is going to be the real impact of buying a house? Because at the end is not, I'm going to be repaying my mortgage for 20 years, is what is the real impact on your plans to retire at this age? You know, how is it going to change your real life? You are going to the restaurants every now and then. You have some, your own treats on, I'm buying this, I'm buying that. I'm used to do this. I put gas to my car every whatever. I want to buy a new car in 3 years' time. This amazing trip that I have been postponing for, because the pandemic, I want to do in a couple of years. So when you see the massive amount of information and data that is required to properly forecast all those things, because it's not a single thing and is I have X money on my account and I'm going to be repaying $3,000 per month. That's something that every single person can do. How is going to really impact your life? And your life is not the money that you have in your account. Your life is how many times you go for restaurants, or how is your leisure life? Where are your plans of travel, blah 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 blah, right? And I think that no bank in the world is able today to say, if you buy a house of $1 million today, this is how your life is going to look like in the next 10 or 15 years. Because don't forget that it's not only you. We as a banking industry, we have our own forecast on what do you think, what we would think that is going to happen with the interest rate at the official price of the money, that is going to be something that will impact your mortgage interest rate. We have a vision that sometimes is wrong of how is going to be the macroeconomy worldwide. So all those things should be amazing. Is what if I buy a house and says, you should not, at least at this price, because your life is going to be miserable, right? So what I mean is going to be miserable is forget traveling in the next 2 years, forget going every weekend into a super fancy restaurant. It's not going, well, can happen, but you are going to be in trouble, right? I think that at one point we will have the computational capability through the cloud. We will have the proper algorithms, and obviously we have the data to be able to tell you it's not a good idea, right? So have you thought on a 700 grand instead of $1 million that is going to make your life much, much easier? I think that this is the next frontier.
I think that's actually a fantastic answer, Lewis. And I think, if we're able to use AI and ML to provide that level of information and in some ways education, I think we would see a very different society. And I know I, for one, would find that extremely valuable. So let's hope.
Well, that'll play very nicely into evolving responsible buy now, pay later. But Lewis, time flies when you're having fun, and I know to our audience, to our listeners, give it up for Lewis Uguina, who's an absolute star of technology and banking and financial services, giving us so many insights today from payments, how that landscape's being disrupted and evolving to serve customers in a frictionless experience, right through to making sure that banks now have shifted their foot from being bank-oriented towards talking customers' language. And I think that's what it's all about these days. It's driven by the customer. So thank you very much, Lewis Uguina. Thank you to my exceptional stand-in co-host, Jennifer Harris, our Global Head of Marketing Comms for Sandstone Technology. And to the audience, thank you very much. We look forward to catching up with you next Thursday for a digital-first banking transformation series.
Thanks, Mick. Thanks, Lewis.
Thank you. Bye-bye.